Welcome to beautiful Monmouth County, New Jersey. We got a great show for you today. We are going to look at a house that's going to be going on the market. So the homeowner is going to list this house for sale, and they wanted to have a home inspection done to the property so they could really understand if there's any fundamental issues with the home before they list the property for sale. So we're going to look at everything. We're going to be in the basement looking at the furnace and the electrical panel. We're going to look at the water heater. We're going to look at a radon system, all the fundamentals that operate the home. In addition to that, we're going to take a look at the windows. We're going to fly drone footage. We're going to do a deep dive on the kitchen. It's going to be great. Pay attention to this show because there's a lot of important things that you can pull out of it. So if you're buying or selling a home, it's absolutely critical that you understand the condition of the property. In the process of going through everything and finding out what's good, what's maybe not so good about the property is called a home inspection. So we wanted to bring in an expert today. Terry Darling, thank you for joining us today.
Happy to be here, Greg.
So Terry, run us through some of the key components of a home inspection.
So Greg, the real purpose of a home inspection is to test the components and the systems of the house and find defects and report them to the buyer. Beyond that, though, with a home inspection, it's also an educational experience, right? So we walk a buyer through all the different major components and systems, test them, and then also teach them maintenance things, what you need to look for, what you need to do as a homeowner to operate this home and its systems going forward to keep it safe and operating properly in the future.
So I'm the perfect type of person who's looking to buy a home. I need to know what, if any, issues there are, and then in addition to that, you got to teach me how to use things.
Correct.
Because I'm kind of clueless. So that's great. So when you're going through the property, what are some of the key things that we need to be looking at, Terry?
Well, your major components are structure and foundation, the roof, and then your mechanicals. So the heating and cooling elements, water heater, plumbing, and electric.
So when you're looking at the roof, what do you climb up on the roof and take a look at it?
So sometimes we do, yeah, absolutely. So we inspect the roof one of two ways. We either walk it or we can climb it if we safely can, we'll do that, or we fly it with a drone. So
which do you prefer?
It depends on the building. If I'm safe on the roof, I love to walk a roof. I always prefer to walk it if possible, but you can't walk every roof. So, sure. The drone does a really good job too. Sometimes we'll do both just because, clients like to see the roof from the drone footage above as well. So, the drone's a big help because you can't get on every roof.
I'm hoping we get a little bit of drone footage today.
I think we will, for sure.
So now, is there a different inspection when you get into the fundamentals of the house, like heating? If it's an oil burner, like a boiler, or whether or not it's forced hot air, is there a different process for inspecting those?
The process isn't really different, but explaining to the client how the systems operate and what they can expect, that's really where it's more important. So, a boiler versus a furnace, they do operate differently. With a furnace, you're going to need to be knowledgeable about the filter, for one, which is something that the homeowner or the property manager needs to change on a regular basis to make sure that the system's operating properly. And then a boiler, a steam boiler, for example, the homeowner really should be bleeding it or draining it on a periodic basis because that's a closed system, so the same water is circulating throughout it all the time. And then occasionally you'd be required to add water to the system too, so it's operating correctly. So you need to understand as a homeowner, what type of system do I have, and then what do I need to do to make sure that it's operating.
All right, so we're going to look at the heating and the AC units today and the property that we go out to. How about the electrical?
Yeah, so the electrical, on an inspection, we test all the receptacles that we can reach. But beyond that, we also look at the panel, or all the panels, the main panel and the sub panel. That's something that a homeowner typically doesn't do, right? You're typically not taking the panel off at your home to look inside. So what a home inspector will do, take that panel off, look at the wiring at the panel, at the bus bar, make sure there are no defects on it. And that's one of the things we'll talk about when we're on site later today.
What kind of defects do you potentially see?
Defects are pretty common in an electric panel, to be honest. One of the main defects that we see, especially here in New Jersey with older homes, is a Federal Pacific panel. Federal Pacific was a company that manufactured electric panels right here in Newark from the 50s to the 80s, and they have a high failure rate. So we always recommend that they are replaced. So that's a common defect, is just the Federal Pacific panel. But other defects too, double tap neutrals where you've got 2 wires on the same lug, double tap breakers as well, which can cause issues at receptacles down the line. So the electric panel is one of those places where you're not going to see it as a homeowner, so it's important you have a competent inspector look at it.
Well, you're kind of speaking a foreign language to me, so I'm looking forward to going through everything. Double this, that, I don't know, but we're going to go through it in detail and check it out. Now, so we'll look at the roof, we'll look at the AC, we'll look at the electrical heater. How about the water heater?
Yeah, the water heater, we'll definitely look at that as well. We'll always report, the age of the water heater, talk about, how long you can expect its life to be, and the kind of defects that you want to make sure are not present on your water heater so it's operating properly.
One of the other things that we want to look at today is a generator sub-panel.
Okay.
And take a look at how that's all set up when you pull the switch or the panel off of the electrical.
Okay.
It's going to be great.
Yeah, sounds good. Another thing we also look at are windows and doors. Obviously, all of the interior, stairs, windows, and doors are important. Particularly windows, though. Windows are an expensive amenity. If you need to replace all the windows in a house, it can be costly. So
now, can you gauge the age of the windows just by looking at them?
Typically, no, but sometimes if there's identifying characteristics, you can.
I remember the old strings.
Yeah.
In some houses that I lived in when I was younger.
With the weights.
With the
too?
weights,
yeah,
exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Those are nice and up to speed. I'm sure they're very energy efficient as well.
All of those windows need to be replaced, no doubt.
Do you think there's a difference between vinyl windows and wood windows from an efficiency standpoint?
There are so many different levels of windows you can purchase now. So there are plenty in both categories that are terrific. But as you shop, cost consciousness is obviously important, and then performance over time for the type of windows you choose.
Wood's generally more expensive than vinyl would be.
Typically, yeah. When it's a quality window, yes.
All right, I can't wait to go out there and check it out. Come on, you guys want to go out to a house and check everything out? Come on, we're leaving. Let's go, Terry.
All right, sounds good.
Hey, Terry, how you doing?
Hey, great. Good morning.
Thanks for coming out.
Absolutely.
We appreciate it.
Happy to.
All right, so we got a home seller that's looking to sell their house. We want to go through everything with a fine-tooth comb.
Sure.
And get an idea as to what issues might come up on a home inspection. But before we do that, can we take a look at the drone?
Absolutely. We'll get the drone out. We'll fly the roof, look at the chimney, fascias, soffits, all those kind of things. Let's give it a look.
Going to be a great day. Let's do it, Terry.
Sounds good. I'll meet you in front. So with the roof inspection, we're looking at multiple things. Obviously, the roof covering. This is an architectural shingle roof. But you're also looking at penetrations and flashing or sealing around penetrations, like the 2 skylights here. Skylights, looks like they've been installed well.
What's that, an exhaust?
That's going to be a plumbing stack, right?
Okay.
A sewer stack for plumbing. And it's got a good looking rubber boot on it too, so that looks great. Gutter guards on the gutters.
I mean, that's going to save you some time so you don't have to clean the gutters out.
Not as often, at least, for sure. This home has a thermostatically controlled fan, which we could see the shell there.
And that would be in the attic that's going to go on automatically when it reaches a certain temperature in the attic.
Correct, that's right. And it's going to help the air conditioning system work a lot more efficiently. Now, the inside of the attic will also tell us a lot about the roof. So that's one of the things that we'll look at as well, because the roof has to perform on the outside and the inside.
Hey, there we are. Hey, guys. All right, Terry. Now, that drone is fantastic. I got to get one of those so I can play with one in my backyard.
Everybody loves the bird's eye view, right?
Right? So, all right, so we're in the house, beautiful home.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of square footage here that we have to go through, but where should we start?
Yeah, so on a home inspection, we always have a system and a protocol that we follow so we don't miss anything. And we also like to overlap and go over everything a second time. So to do that, what we do is we start in the basement, and your mechanicals, your shutoffs, your heating and cooling, all those things are typically located in the basement. So let's start down there, then we'll head back up, work the kitchen, and then work our way through up through the house.
All right, it's a half-an-hour show, so we got to move fast.
All right, let's get on.
All right, let's do it.
On.
All right, Terry, let's go downstairs and check this out. All right, Terry, so every inspection has some limitations. So if we go in here, I want to know when you're inspecting the property for me, are you inspecting the weight set?
So Greg, as great as this weight set looks, and I'm sure there are no defects, there's certain things that are personal property, right? So this is one thing we're not going to inspect, but it looks like you get a hell of a workout here for sure.
All right, come on, I'll spot you. All right, so we're taking the panel off of the electrical panel so we can really get an idea, Terry, as to how it's working on the inside.
Correct, Greg. This is the main electrical panel in the basement. This is the main shutoff here, and this is one of the more important things on a home inspection because a homeowner typically isn't ever going to take the panel off. Usually only a professional is going to do that. We look for all kinds of defects. One of the things that we often find is aluminum wiring. This house was built in '74, so it's possible it has it. Good news for this home buyer, it doesn't. This is all copper wire.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on in there.
Correct. This is a 200 amp panel, which is great. That's really what you want to support modern life in a house of this size. And you've got multiple bus bars here, but overall, it's a little tight, but this panel looks good.
So, and just from a consumer standpoint, understanding how to operate a house, that main shutoff switch, you have a main problem, just shut it off.
Correct. Now, this is going to shut off all the power to the house, and then individually, these breakers are going to shut off individual circuits. But that's right. If you wanted to shut everything off, that's it.
Is this one of those Pacific panels?
Federal Pacific panels. Excellent. No, this is a Bryant panel. So we are good to go.
Perfect. And I can see that next to it, there's a sub panel that's for the generator.
Correct. Yeah. This is a generator sub panel where you plug in a generator to it. If you do, you want to make sure that generator is safe and not here on the inside of the building. And typically, if a homeowner's not sure what they're doing, they really should have an electrician do this when they need to turn it over. If you were to be out of power.
When they need to turn it on.
Right. When you're out of power for a long period of time.
Now, and just a little added bonus for everyone out there, if you need to understand how to shut off the water in case of an emergency, I think the emergency water switch is right here as well, shut-off valve.
This is the water main coming through the house. This is one of the things that your home inspector should always teach you is where the shutoffs are for all the appliances, all the utilities rather, water, electric, and gas. So our two shutoffs for electric and water are here. Copper main coming in. If you needed to shut the water off, you're just going to turn this valve perpendicular. And then our gas was actually on the outside of the house, right near the garage.
Okay, I saw the meter out there.
That's right, and the shutoff is right at the meter, which it typically is.
Okay, great, Terry. Let's take a look at the furnace.
Great.
So let's get into it. I know that we already took a lot of this stuff off, Terry, to make it prepared. Now this is the furnace.
Correct.
And there's two furnaces in this house.
So a furnace like this one is forced air. It has a filter. So this filter, you do need to change it periodically on a regular basis to make sure the air quality is good. So those are all the things you're going to learn. In addition to that, we're also going to report the brand, the manufacture date, and then also give people an idea, how long should this furnace last and what do you need to do to make sure that it's well maintained and lasts as long as possible.
Now for something like this, I know that the filter is a big part of it. Now the filter is that's pulling out allergens and pollen and that type of stuff, correct?
That's right, absolutely.
Okay, and there'd be one for each unit.
Correct, that's the other filter over there.
Now is this good? Is that
this
clean?
Filter,
is that dirty?
It looks okay. It looks like it's been cleaned relatively recently, but that's one of the things that you do want to clean or replace if you want to use a cartridge filter as well. And if you have a pet or if you have allergies, changing your filter more often is probably something you want to do.
How frequently do you usually have to change them, Terry?
Rule of thumb is about every 3 months. And what we recommend for people is if you have an Amazon account, and who doesn't, set the Amazon account to deliver that filter every 3 months.
Right there.
People forget to change it all the time, Greg. So if it shows
you're never down. When are you ever down at your furnace?
You're right.
Looking around saying, oh yeah, I got to change the filter.
That's it. But if it shows up in that Amazon truck, you know what day it is.
Yeah, that's great. That's great advice.
Yeah. Our water heater's here, and then this PVC piping is actually part of a radon mitigation system. So this home has a radon mitigation system to lower the level of radon. A lot of people don't know what radon is. It's a naturally occurring radioactive gas. It's in every home, but when it's at a high level or an elevated level, it's a risk to lung health. It's the second leading cause of lung cancer behind smoking. Wow. So what this system is doing is it's penetrating the foundation floor, and there's a fan and pump on the other side of this plumbing that's taking the gases from below the foundation and discharging them outside of the house. So it's making the air quality in this house safe for occupants.
Now, is this mercury?
This isn't. This is called the manometer or the manometer, if you like. But this is basically telling you that the system is operating properly.
All right, Terry, so we're looking at the water heater. I mean, this is a pretty cramped space that we're looking at. Very intimate space. You want to dance, Terry?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right, let's check this out.
Our dance today is with Bradford and White water heater. We're obviously looking at the age, condition. We're going to look at the capacity of the water heater, also report on any defects we find with the installation, and then also how it's powered, where the shutoff is, all those kind of things.
Now, this is electric, and it could be gas.
Correct. Okay. This is electric. We do have gas in this house, but this is an electric water heater. And the average life on a water heater is about 8 to 12 years. It doesn't mean they can't last longer like any appliance they can, but once it gets around that 10-year mark, you want to be prepared to replace it if you need to.
Okay. What's next?
So, Greg, we're finished here in the basement, which is where a lot of the the larger systems and components are for an inspection. Now we're going to head upstairs, start in the kitchen, and go through the rest of the house.
That's perfect. All right, so Terry, while we're doing this inspection down here, I couldn't help but notice a dinosaur in the room. Not me, but this. This book, now for you kids out there, this is what's called an encyclopedia. This is Google in book form. Remember these, Terry?
That was the first Google in 1981, right there.
Now, I remember my mom used to buy one every week at the supermarket.
Yes.
They had like a sale where you could buy one for $1 every week.
That's right.
That's how we got all our information.
You get one letter a week for 26 weeks.
Exactly,
Yes.
Terry.
Right.
So anyway, if you want encyclopedias, you should call the owner of this home. All right, Terry, so people want to know, how long is a home inspection? What's the usual duration of it?
So typical one-family home inspection is between 2 to 3 hours, depending on the size of the house.
Okay, so for us, we're just going to look at a couple of different items. It's a half-an-hour show. So we're going to look at a couple critical points that you need to understand. Let's check out the kitchen.
Sure. So your major components are usually in the basement and then obviously the kitchen.
Okay.
One of the things with the home inspection is we're going to test all of the appliances as well as the plumbing and the electric throughout the kitchen. Report to the buyer the age of all the appliances, and then if there are any defects with how they operate.
All right, let's get into it.
So operating and testing all of the appliances is certainly part of the home inspection. We're going to test all the burners on the stove as well as the oven. And set that, and then we're also going to look for the data plate. So part of the kitchen inspection is testing all the appliances. Even in new construction, we test the appliances. This isn't a new home, but for example, a lot of times with a new home, a technician puts something in and they don't take the packing out, they don't test it, they don't operate it. Another thing with microwaves is even new microwaves that are mounted like this one are often subject to a recall. So we're going to test it and we're going to determine based on the data plate if this one is subject to recall or not.
And you're literally going to go through and find out whether or not there's a recall and get all that information.
Correct.
Now, I would think a new construction, at times you think, hey, it's new construction. Why do I even need a home inspection? But the reality is that you do.
You really do, because if you put a dishwasher in, most times in new construction, we find dishwashers, they still have the packing in it. I can't tell you how many times I've operated a brand new dishwasher and it's all over the floor. So, you definitely want to run it and know it's in good working order, because an installing technician oftentimes doesn't do that.
All right, now the dishwasher, how do we go about testing it, making sure that everything works?
So for a dishwasher, we look for a couple of things. One is to make sure that it's mounted properly and secured to the top. And then we look for the data plate.
Okay, so same thing. That data plate's key when you're looking at any appliances.
Correct, because that's how you're going to determine when it was manufactured. And then we're going to operate that and test it.
All right, so Terry, what is this thing that you have?
So this is a receptacle tester, Greg. In addition to all the appliances, one of the things we'll also test in the kitchen is the electrical outlets and all the switches and lights. So this tester will test receptacles to make sure they're GFCI protected. GFCI stands for ground fault current interrupter. You want those type of outlets anywhere near a wet area. So kitchens, bathrooms, outdoors. And basically, if you have the water on and an appliance is energized, it becomes wet, this outlet is going to trip or lose its power and provide protection so you're not electrocuted.
So you do not necessarily need GFI outlets everywhere, just anywhere that there's water.
Correct.
Now, so is it every outlet in the house that we're checking, Terry, or just the basic ones that are around the water, kitchen, bathroom?
So we will check all the outlets in the house, Greg, make sure all the outlets we can reach, we'll check to make sure they're wired properly. But we do check kitchens and bathrooms for the GFCI compatible outlets because, if you're cooking here, you're making pasta, right? What do you use? You use water, correct?
Right.
So you want to make sure that this outlet is giving you the same amount of protection in case an appliance like this is plugged in and your pasta pot spills. So we'll check all those, but we'll check all the outlets throughout the house to make sure they were wired properly.
How frequently do you find homemade or home done items? Like someone changing it on their own and they
Yes.
wired it incorrectly?
All the time, especially in homes that are existing. People can do electrical repairs without permits, and they do it all the time. So yeah, it's pretty common.
Because the outlet will still work even if it's wired incorrectly.
It oftentimes does. You're right, but it leaves if it's ungrounded, let's say, it leaves an occupant potentially exposed to electrical shock. So
Shock, could it start a fire?
it could, yeah.
Okay. All right, well, there'll be no more of that.
Not today, not here.
All right, so we checked everything we need to check in the kitchen, Terry?
Kitchen's all set, and that's a lot of major things in the kitchen, Greg, but we've got the rest of the house too. So we're gonna head through, check the rest of the rooms. One of the major things we're gonna look at is windows, because those can be an expensive ticket if you have to replace them. So let's head off to the dining room and we'll check out the windows.
I'll follow your lead, Terry. All right, we're at the windows, Terry. And we found this beautiful showcase window. As I'm looking around this house, there's like 35 different windows.
Yeah.
Do you check every single one?
So on a home inspection, we're gonna check everything that's visible and accessible. So, if there's furniture in front of a window, we can't get to it, we may not check that one, but every one we can get to, we're definitely gonna check, Greg. And that's really important because with windows, listen, with a home inspection, it's about information and being educated, right? So if you're walking into a home and you have windows that don't open or can't lock, or they need to be replaced, or maybe the seals are broken, all those things are things you want to know. So we'll operate all of them. These are nice quality windows, and a homeowner's done a really good job with maintenance because they keep them locked all the time too.
While we were over here checking out the window, Terry, I couldn't help but notice this device down here. And is that a carbon monoxide detector?
That's right, Greg. This is a personal device or a personal property. As you can see, it's plugged into the wall. So the homeowner could take this with them right when they move out. So that's something to keep in mind. These are fine, but we do recommend permanently, hardwired so they're there all the time. And then also smoke detectors. People don't realize smoke detectors have a typical life of about 10 years. So we recommend when someone buys a new home, change the locks and also change the smoke detectors and the carbon monoxide detectors. It's the safest thing you can do.
So if this thing's ever above 0, it's bad.
It's
It'll
bad,
go
correct.
off.
And this one you just test right here.
Here, let's hit it. Oh. All right, pretty good.
Yeah.
Hey, Terry, man, thanks so much for taking the time today. It was really great. I mean, to go through the house in a lot of detail, you really pick up a lot of information. Could you just recap a couple of the points?
Yeah, sure, Greg. So with the home inspection, it went really well today. We looked at all the major components of the house, starting on the outside. The exterior, we flew the roof with the drone, checked everything out from up above. Then we headed inside, went down to the basement, looked at all the major mechanicals there, all the utility shutoffs, furnace. This house has a radon system, so we talked a little bit about that, learned about that. Headed up, went through the kitchen, which is where a lot of the major appliances are, tested all of those things, along with the electric and plumbing in the kitchen. And then we went through the rest of the house. A lot of windows on this house to check, so we did all that. And the house really overall showed very, very well.
Well, we got to play with a lot of really cool toys too. From the thing we put in the microwave to the GFI, the drone. Oh my gosh.
One of the best things about the job.
So now, do you spend time going through the perimeter with a potential home buyer?
Sure, yeah, we do. The first thing when we arrive at inspection is usually to do the exterior. But we tell the client, especially a buyer, we run the inspection really in 2 phases. And in the beginning, we don't have a lot to tell the client because we haven't tested much yet. So we tell the client this is a great time where you're spending a little more time in the house on your own as well to think about maybe paint or furniture or things like that you want to do. And then the second part of the inspection, we're teaching everything back to the client and we're going sort of backwards through the house with them. We do that also because it puts the inspector's eyes on everything a second time, and we're a lot less likely to miss something significant that way.
Yeah, no, that's great because not only do you find out if there's any potential issues, but it's also the education process, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So when you look at doing an inspection, you have the home buyer with you, is the home buyer like next to you the whole time? Saying, hey, what's that, Terry? Is this a problem? Is that a problem?
Well, they can be, but we encourage people to sort of go through the house at their own pace, and then we'll come back with them and teach everything back to them. Sometimes a buyer can feel a little anxious when they follow the inspector the entire time. And also, it's hard to keep focused for a consumer for 2.5 to 3 hours.
I'm sorry, what was that?
So there you go.
I completely understand.
So we find that it's sometimes more effective if we do that recap with someone, and then they're focused on the defects and then the things that they need to do as a good homeowner, moving forward.
It was awesome, Terry. Thanks
Hey,
for taking the
pleasure,
time.
Greg.
Really appreciate
Anytime.
it.
You bet.
And we appreciate everyone watching the show today. I mean, we learned a lot from the windows, from the downstairs, the kitchen, all the different things that we saw. Hopefully it tries to help educate you a little bit as to what to look for in a home inspection. Now, you can go through the home on your own. You can reach out to me if you had any questions, but really the guy you need to reach out is to someone like Terry, because Terry really knows what he's doing, is going to lead you down the right path. We look forward to catching up with you next week, and we thank you for watching the show today.